Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Welcome once again to Hang On Supi, a show powered by Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio. I'm your host, Caleb Supi Spinner, and today we talk to our third softball player in 4 weeks. Can you tell I enjoy the sport of softball? It's Carley Gaskill. Carley, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's been a pleasure getting to talk to your teammates so far through these last 3 weeks now is when we did the Allison episode, so I'm excited to get to talk to you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I love my teammates. So they've probably been great to have on the show, so I'm just happy to be here.
Also, as I should say, congrats on a great season. I was able to talk to Allison ahead of your Michigan State series, so fantastic wins there, and that was a great way to end the season and your career, no doubt.
Absolutely. It was definitely a fun weekend for sure.
So there's a lot that I want to get to here. There's a lot about you that I feel like will bring up some good conversation. So I'll just get right into here. When and how did your love of softball begin?
I started playing softball when I was 4. I am the oldest of 4 kids, so I don't really think I had a choice of playing sports since both my parents are collegiate athletes. I was put in softball. My mom's a softball player. My dad played baseball, football, basketball, soccer. So I think they just went with what they thought I would naturally like. I was also put in soccer, so I played club soccer and club softball growing up until I probably couldn't. There was an age at one point they're like, you need to pick a sport. Softball is just the epitome of everything that is, you have a team, but you're also really individual. You have your own individual goals and your individual competitions, but then you're also just competing as a whole. And I mean, looking back now, I'm 23 saying that, but at me at like 11, that definitely was not a thought process. I just think it's so much fun. The games are fast, they're quick, fast paced. I think everything about it is just something that I've always been intrigued to. And not to say I don't like baseball. I love baseball, but softball is definitely a faster sport. And I think that is what drew me into it. Like I said, I played soccer. I was a goalie. It's a lot of standing around and not really doing anything. And I know in softball, I stand around and not really do anything also. But I feel like there's more opportunity for me to be a part of things in softball because I am an infielder and a utility player instead of just like standing in the goal. And I mean, my dad jokes about it all the time. The ultimate reason I picked softball at the time when I had to pick between the 2 sports was that I hated running. But also at the time, I didn't know I had like a broken femur, which is why I didn't run correctly and I hated it, which is a whole nother like story. But I mean, it brought me here, so I'm not mad about my decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to imagine having parents, especially your dad, who seems to have his name on every sport you can play at one point. You grew up as a very athletic kid. Tell me about some of the things they got you into, even before you started playing softball at like the middle school and high school levels. What were they doing to get you active before those?
Yeah. So I have a brother. Me and my brother are only 18 months apart. So kind of like they put us together and everything. We did gymnastics, soccer, he played Little League baseball. I played softball. He played basketball. I tried basketball. I hated playing defense, loved to shoot. So it just wasn't in the cards for me to play basketball. But then softball really stuck. And at a young age, I think they realized how good I was at softball since I stopped playing like rec leagues at 10 years old. Because I told them I couldn't. They tell me stories of how I would cry after every game because I couldn't throw the ball to my teammates because I couldn't catch it. And I just hated it so much. And I played All-Stars, and there was one season I actually played the whole regular season in the older age group so I could play with like, I guess, better competition, you could say. But the rule was that if I played up, I had to go back down to my age group for All-Stars. And at that age, I was a pitcher. I mean, everyone pitches at some point in their lives. And it's just kind of like, I look back, I'm like, it's remarkable how I was able to like play with older girls at 8 years old and 10 years old, and then just go back down and play for the summer. I mean, I don't think there was ever a time in my life where I wasn't playing some type of sport. I mean, back in California, we can do things year round because of the weather. So it's kind of like I played softball all year for the last 19 years of my life.
It seems like pitcher is that center of the Venn diagram where everybody has that shared experience, whether you're talking about softball or baseball. And it sounds like that you were able to truly realize, what you wanted to do because you had, again, a dad who had done everything and had experience with everything, and you were slowly narrowing down what you wanted to focus on. I think softball was the perfect pick because looking at your numbers here, you made a good choice.
Yeah, I agree. Softball is definitely my choice, and it's just something I've been passionate about ever since I could remember. I love the sport so much.
So let's talk about your club team, the SoCal Choppers. You guys finished 14th and 3rd in the nation. Not the state, not the city, the nation. Very impressive. And while you were on the team, looking back now, how do you think that placement and the exposure on the national stage kind of got your name out to some of these college coaches, even though it was at an early age?
Yeah, so I owe everything to my travel coaches in regards to exposure. Yes, I grew up in California. It's a hub for recruiting college softball solely because we play year round, like I said. Getting recruited at a young age is tough. I mean, there was a point in my life where I was about a week away from committing to play at an SEC school in 8th grade. And it's kind of like, I look back, I'm like, that's crazy. Like, how could I ever know that that's what I wanted? Like, that's who I wanted to go to. And I remember like asking, oh, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm 13. Like, looking back, I think it definitely helped that the caliber of players I had around me were just as high quality as I was. I wasn't like a standout player, I guess I would say, but like all of us all went D1 at least. Every single player on my team played divisional softball. And I credit that to like our 3rd place finish and our 14th place finish. That 14th place finish was definitely like uncharacteristic of our team. That 3rd place finish definitely hurt because we, in all honesty, against all of us, I think we should have won the national championship that year. We are just solid every single, like one of my teammates right now, she's the starting shortstop at Arizona. She is like 6 home runs away from the NCAA home run record for career home runs. Like, that's the type of people I played with. And I think we all made each other better. And I think just growing up, playing with them, like evolving with them, learning new skills with them, it's like we all helped each other to get to where we were. And I like look back and I would not have changed the team I played on, the girls I played with, my coaches, like everything they did was for a reason. And everything we did was ultimately to win, but we also cared about each other. And I think that's the reason we were so successful.
Connections on the field and off the field are something that I continue to hear from athletes, not just softball players, on the reason that they're playing for their team or the reason they decided to go play for this team. It's a very important thing when you talk about not only team chemistry, but also the bonds that you guys have long after you graduate. It's going to be something that you're going to be able to tap back to, and it's going to be wonderful that you're able to have that. One of the other effects of your national placement in these tournaments was a spot on both the LA Times and the LA Daily News watch lists. What did it mean to you to make these rosters?
It was definitely cool because the first time I was on it, I think it was my sophomore year, and I had just come off playing every single game at third base my freshman year of high school. And it was just like, in all honesty, high school softball isn't like truly that important out west. We kind of were in a way forced to play it because our travel ball, like we call it a dark season, to where if we actually go play a travel ball game, our high school team will like forfeit every game. They're like, we need you all to play, like we need you to play high school, like don't go play travel. But in reality, like any honor is a great honor to achieve. And I took it. It was never something I expected. I'm truly pretty humble when it comes to this kind of stuff. Every time I got it, it was something that I was like, wow, like it's awesome. Like my friends and family, classmates, teammates were like, that's really cool. And like, even like back to my travel team, that LA Times team and like Daily News Watch was a lot of my team. So like we'd all like go take these pictures, and it was just like a really cool experience. And I think like being on those teams, like definitely, I wouldn't say like helped my confidence. I'm a fairly confident person when it comes to softball, but I just think it kind of just like added to it. I mean, like, yeah, I am one of the best players in the city in the conference, like that kind of thing, especially at a young age.
Oh yeah. And at that young age, getting the confidence for the game is something that I almost guarantee was one of the reasons that you were able to go to college and say, yeah, I can do this in college. This is a realistic dream. You know, I feel like people who start off young, their goal is to always be the NBA player, the NFL player. And then as you go on down the road, you start realizing that maybe this isn't really a reasonable aspiration. And so you kind of redirect. But that confidence had to tell you that, hey, I am staying firm in my goal because this is something I can do. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here. But now focusing on your high school team, when you played for your school softball team, you were a 4-year letter winner and a scholar athlete. How do you think these distinctions help bolster your resume when colleges were looking at you to say, I'm more than just a softball player. I'm also a smart person?
In all honesty, I think the only thing they cared about when it comes to like high school softball in returns of recruiting is your GPA. So I think they could care less if I played 4 years of high school softball. I think it was more of like, what are your grades? And I mean, I committed to Ohio State really young, and coach was like, I need you to maintain this, like this type of thing. And like, it got to the point where like, okay, yeah, I can accomplish this and still accomplish my things that I want to do on the field. And I think that set me up to be a student in college as well, even though the college dynamic is completely different than the high school dynamic in terms of academics. But I think that being able to maintain that for 4 years was something I was just proud of in general when I received it my senior year at our little banquet thing that we do. But I just think that allowing myself to make sure my schoolwork was done and like all that was at least ahead of me and achievable definitely set me up and helped like when in terms of college recruiting, because like we get recruited through our travel ball. It's what it is. But we definitely have to provide our GPA, provide the classes we're taking so they know like if we are going to like a high academic school, can we get in? Because yeah, we're athletes, but we still have to get into the school and be able to get in. So I think that is something that like even my travel ball coaches were like, you need to maintain the GPA if you want to go play college softball. So it's kind of like in a way a requirement for me. At least I made it a requirement where I didn't let myself not fall below a 3.0 or a 3.5, whatever it was in high school. And I think that it really just helped me set myself up for college.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, you're being taught or you're being coached not by coaches, but by teachers, because that's going to be the thing that they look for. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because balancing, even in high school, but especially now in college, you mentioned the dynamic is so different. Balancing sports and school takes responsibility. And it sounds like you got a huge dose of that early on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sometimes they call me the mama bear of the group because I was the oldest on this team this last year, but like I definitely like just take things in my own hands and like do it myself. Like I'm a go-getter. I'm a very not really like individual person, but like I can do things independently. I'm not someone who enjoys asking for help, but if I really have to, I will. So I think like being able to accomplish those things in high school did set me up for college. Did I have my failures and all different kind of stuff with like classes and like scheduling and time management? Absolutely, in the last 5 years. But like I was able to work my way out of it. And I think that also came from like how I was able to set myself up to be here.
Right. Absolutely. And in addition to the recognition you received from your school, the city and the state of California bestowed their own honors to you in the forms of the D1 All-City First Team, the All-State Third Team, and the Valley D1 Senior All-Star Team. How did these experiences help to validate all the work that you had put in up to that point?
I mean, it was just kind of cool to end it on like a high note. Like there's no like expectations. Yes, I made a city team or like a league team every year, but like as a Division I recruit, it's kind of like in your head, like I should be doing this, especially if I'm not playing like Division I softball players every single game. I think the All-State team was the coolest one for me just because the state of California is giant and they had to pick however many people were on each team and I got chosen. So I think that accolade was definitely the one that I was like, oh, wow, like that's pretty cool. Actually, like there are a million, it feels like D1 softball players that come out of California. So it was like really cool just to be recognized. I mean, in the D1 AllStar game, that was cool. Like I started at shortstop, like it was just a fun time. We won our section that year. So like we had a good amount of our senior, I think every single one of my seniors with us, my senior year of high school were on that team. But yeah, I think that was just like a lot of fun. I mean, I got chosen, it was cool. But I definitely think the All-State team was the one that definitely was like the best accolade I received.
And focusing on that All-Star game, I know you say it was the lowest of the three, but still, not to discredit that had you playing against some of the best D1 players in the state, some people who would be going to college like you. How do you think that experience helped condition you for the kind of talent you'd face in college?
Yeah, I think it was definitely like all of us take it so seriously all the time. And I think that game alone, like just that kind of reminded us like we play softball because it's fun. Like we play it, like we love the game. Like obviously there's competitiveness. You want to win. You want to do all the time stuff. But, like all of us at that point a lot of us were going to play division softball, like some kind of NCAA softball. It wasn't all like Division I, but like we all were just kind of like, this is a fun game. And like I remember the MVP of the game was actually a pitcher on our team. You like got a glove or like something like that. It was like a really cool experience. And I think like that alone, it just like it like reminded us that like we're all really good, but we all want to have fun playing the game. I think that's what we got most out of that game. It was just meeting everyone else in the city or the conference or whatever that we hadn't actually like gotten to talk to because we were on opposing teams. But like, I think that game alone definitely like set us up to go play Division I softball, Division II, Division III, whatever it was, because it was kind of like our last thing together as high schoolers before the like summer travel ball season.
It seems like some of the best players, not only in softball, but in anything you see, they'll treat the game as work and not necessarily forget it, but put more emphasis on the I'm working in this position instead of this is a game at the end of the day. And they should. The people who want to go to the NFL, MLB, whatever pro league you're talking about, it is going to be a job. But always having in the back of your head at least that I am playing a game, I should be enjoying an aspect of this is something important. And that's what'll lead to, being happy instead of just, I made it at the top, now what? We're going to talk about your transition from California, a state that's very big, to a state in comparison, which is maybe a fourth of the size in Ohio. That may be a bit generous. But first we're going to go into Supi's speed round. So I gave you a little bit of a talk about what this was before we went on air. The spin off the 30 seconds, 30 questions. By now we've done it a couple times. So the listeners should know the drill here. 45 seconds. I've got some thought-provoking questions on a list right here. If you're ready for them, I'll set the timer and we'll get ready to go.
Let's do it.
All righty. So we will start in 3, 2, 1. Are you a night owl or an early riser?
Night owl.
What is your favorite place to get ice cream?
In Ohio, Graders.
Okay, that's a common one. What is your favorite movie?
The Pirates of the Caribbean series.
Name the worst place you could get stuck.
An elevator.
What gift would you buy yourself if money were no object?
You said gift?
Yes.
I definitely buy myself a new car.
Name something about yourself some may consider dorky.
I love to do word searches.
And then one more. When I dance, finish the sentence. When I dance, I look like blank.
I look like I'm having a good time.
And that was time, of course. Some of these I want to talk about. Graders, fantastic. The other acceptable answer, as people learned last week when we talked to Brent Totis, my other acceptable answer is Cold Stone. But Graders is right there as well. Favorite movie was a good one. A Night Owl, same. I think college conditions you to be a night owl.
Oh, absolutely. Especially for us, athletes who have 6 a.m. lift. I'm not awake. I wake up as I'm walking into the weight room. Definitely conditions you to be a night owl when you're in college. I can slowly see it changing because at this we've been on the road and we have specific breakfast times. So I've conditioned myself to wake up for breakfast. I've slowly been waking up earlier, but I'm definitely still not a morning person.
My family and I have been going over the summer. We've been doing 5 a.m. CrossFit Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And that's been something fun. That's kind of switched that college part of the brain. Hey, I'm back home now. Can't be sleeping in.
Yeah, I love CrossFit. I did in high school, but 5 a.m. is a little early for me.
And then I feel like crossword puzzles are just something that's a brain thing. That's not.
Oh yeah, crossword puzzles, word searches, anything having to do that is thought provoking. My cup of tea.
That just keeps your brain fast. That's all that does.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we'll talk about your move now from LA to Ohio and Columbus, two major cities, but let's face it, different scales here. There is an adjustment when you go to Ohio here. You didn't see a lot of time on the field as a Buckeye in your first year. When you did get the opportunity to play, you made your presence felt. In what ways do you think taking a year to sit back and kind of watch how the college game functions in comparison to high school benefited you up to this point?
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't actually know this, but my first 3 years, I was actually hurt. So every year before the first COVID year, I was hurt at least some point. So I definitely struggled with that. I think when I did get my opportunity my freshman year the most, like I was definitely nervous. Like I knew my freshman year, I missed the entire fall. I was on crutches and a boot. I almost completely tore 2 ligaments in my ankle my very first practice of college. So I had to rehab all that. I remember I got cleared in January, but I had also not seen a pitch a ball, thrown a ball, hit a pitch, fielded a ground ball, done anything the last 6 months. So it's definitely like I was relearning how to move again. And I think I got my opportunities because I did put the work in. I did try to get there. Was I absolutely at my best? Absolutely not. And I think just watching my older teammates, I just like learned how meticulous they were. Not in, oh, we want to win, we want to do this. It was just like the little things. And like I focus on all the details. I'm a detail-oriented person, especially when it comes to softball, especially when it comes to defense. And I think that's when I like really focus on sitting there watching, like sitting on the bucket, like with my ankle brace on, like that kind of thing. I just think they taught me like enjoy the little details that is going on, and like understanding that at 18 years old had definitely like helped me in the next year, especially when I got hurt again. And I was able to again try to work through that, but it was kind of like, what can I get out of just sitting here knowing like I'm not at my best? And I think I just took it and ran with it. I ask a lot of questions. Usually my coaches used to hate it, but they understand that it's just like I'm trying to increase my softball IQ, as someone would say. But I definitely learned a lot from them, a lot from my teammates. It's just kind of like at that point I was like, what could I take? Like, what could I get out of this at this point?
That brings up something that I was never recruited for that, but my brother was recruited for track and cross country. One of the things they kept telling him was pick a college where if you broke your leg the first day on campus, are you still going to enjoy where you are? And it sounds like you had 3 years to test that and make sure that you were the right fit in Ohio State. But again, nothing is ever a bad circumstance if you learn from it. And we talk all the time on the show, event plus response equals outcome, as I wear on the bracelet. You were not dealt a good hand by life at the first few years, but I'd argue that your response to that helped shape up this outcome, which we'll get into. Once you weren't injured anymore, your numbers are out there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think this first one, actually this fifth year that I just played, I only missed 1 game. And it was because I got hurt. But like I had not played so many other games because I was hurt. And just to miss 1 game in a full season, I was happy.
Absolutely. You have to be. Especially if you did get injured, that didn't end up being a season ender. You mentioned a couple of them when we were just talking a minute ago about some of the things you learned while watching them. But who were some of the upperclassmen who you kind of learned from and who took you under your wing at that time?
Yeah, so it's definitely the seniors my freshman year. So Anna Kirk and Alina Springer. Anna ended up being our volunteer assistant the year after she graduated. And coach mentioned it was because usually she wouldn't take someone who just graduated from playing underneath her and putting her into coach, but Anna had built such as repertoire and relationship with us that we all respected her enough to where we could learn from her. And yeah, she's still our friend, but we could all separate. Hey, she's our coach now. We could be friends outside, but we gotta listen to her here. They definitely took me under their wing. I still talk to them all the time now. I know Lena's coaching at Delaware and is at Ashland, but they definitely just took me under their wing. And I am forever grateful for the two of them because Yes, they were lifelong friends for me, but they also are people that helped guide me on getting through this first year, helping me get through my injuries, talking to me about my options with my injuries. And like, they're people I am forever grateful for.
And they were some of the people who I guarantee you celebrated with when you got your first start in the ACC Big Ten Challenge against North Carolina. Walk me through that, your first trip up to the plate, what you were thinking before the game. Tell me what was going through your head.
Yeah, I got my first start, and it was kind of like, one, I was like, in a way, kind of surprised because like I knew I wasn't playing the way I play. Like I said, my ankle was really messed up. I like lost my step, but obviously coach still had to faith in me to play me, so that was perfect. Like I took the opportunity and ran with it. My first at bat was bases loaded. My first collegiate at bat ever was bases loaded, and I actually hit a ground ball up the middle. But the second baseman fielded it, and to this day, I still do not know how she threw out the runner at home. I was like, what? Like, I remember I got to first base, and our coach at the time was like, "Oh, we got that out of the way." And I'm like, "Why didn't?" I was more mad that she didn't score than if I would like gotten out. And like, It was just kind of like a funny moment. And I remember going off that at bat or whatever. My my actual non-recorded like first hit was also just as funny because I hit the umpire with a line drive in the infield, but they just picked it up and like tossed me out because I hit her in between the 3-4 hole on the right side. And like my teammates like Lena and Anna, they were like, of course this would happen to you. And I just like that kind of thing. But it was definitely nerve-wracking. My first like start. One, I was pretty sure I'm the only out of my 2020 class that really played that year at all, even though I was hurt. It was definitely a nerve-wracking experience, but I was like, I felt like I was ready enough. Was I 100%? No. Was I ready enough? Yes. And sometimes, honestly, I'll take my ready enough above some other people's 100%.
Caitlin Kaufman a couple weeks ago told us that her first at bat, the legs were jelly. Did you feel that a little bit too?
On deck, absolutely. I think the minute I stepped in the box, game mode turned on, and I was like, all right, you got to do something. And I think every like pitch I saw, I stepped out of the box. I was like, you're fine. Hit the next pitch. Like, you've been doing this forever, that type of thing. So yeah, I think I was more nervous when I wasn't actually like in the act.
That makes sense. As a sophomore, started to pick it up again. You tallied 35 putouts in 10 games playing first base. Is this the point you think where you started to cement yourself as a starting member of the team?
My sophomore year, not so much. I think that year was like a tough year for me in general. I had a lot of different things going on, and I think, was I grateful to even just be in the games? Absolutely. I think for myself, was I like disappointed in the way like I was able to like show myself to where I wasn't getting a starting spot? Yeah. But like I said, it's a team sport. Whatever's going to be best for the team is best for the team. I'm not going to be upset about that. I think that year definitely like showed me that I could do it in a way, but I knew I was striving for more. So it wasn't like, oh yeah, I can definitely play. Like I knew I could play. It was just like, how do I get my foot in the door to really play?
And you did really play after that. After scoring your first run off of your first career hit at Michigan State, you earned starts in the next 2 games of the series. Tell me about the excitement you felt both scoring the run and getting the announcement that you'd be starting.
It was like kind of cool just to be like, it's like coaches gave me my opportunity to finally like get it rolling. And when it started rolling, it was just like there. Like I said, I probably just took every opportunity she gave me that I was allowed to, despite having injuries. And definitely my sophomore year, hitting against Michigan State, starting those next 2 games, I just kind of feel like it was like, yeah, you are completely capable of doing this. And then I went into junior year and things kind of like went downhill. But like, it was kind of like, yeah, I am really capable of this, even though I'm playing a position I've played maybe once in my life. But that's what you get for being a utility player. You're able to play all over the field, and that's something I pride myself on. So like I was willing to play wherever she wanted to put me at that point.
And then after that, once injury wasn't something that was holding you back, you flew, spread those wings and flew. In your junior and senior years, the numbers began pouring in for you. Since 2019, you've tallied 105 putouts in 38 games, both as first baseman and shortstop. What did these seasons do for your confidence and your position on your team, since you've been handicapped for most of the time leading up to that?
Yeah, so I actually missed half the season my junior year. I was hurt all of the fall with a really rare like stress fracture, and I played the first half of the season, and then it came back. So then I was completely shut down. So I think that actually like really put me down in my spirits, and I was like, I'm finally playing, like I'm doing what I'm capable of, all this different kind of stuff. And it was just, bam, injury again. And I think going into my I guess my 2 senior years, you could call them, after COVID took away the first one, it was kind of like, yeah, you're back. Like I got back from that injury. Like this past year is probably the most me that I have felt in 5 years. And like coach jokes sometimes, she's like, this is what we expected from you your first year, but you just kept getting hurt. And I'm like, I know, but my confidence this year, no one could tell me that I was either undeserving or anything like that. Like I worked and I'd tail off to get through all the injuries and get my muscles back to where they were, to where I was able to perform and do what I did on the field in the box. I just think being able just to be someone that was reliable again, and not someone that you're like, oh, is she gonna be able to play? Like, I know she's dealing with this kind of stuff. Like, this is who I am, and this is who I kind of wanted to be for my first 4 years, I would say. So I'm really happy with how I ended, and I think my like confidence in softball hasn't wavered since I knew what I was capable of coming in. But like you said, like the cards I was dealt was not what anyone wanted, but I took what I got and I ran with it.
If the dealer gives you bad cards, you still got to play the hand, right? Unless you fold at the beginning, but that wasn't an option for you. Now as a grad student, you're one of the veteran leaders on the team. Having gone through so much, especially in your early years, what's some of the advice you give to the incoming players on how to make the most of their situations the second they get it?
Yeah, I think I just tell them, they can probably attest to it. It's kind of like, when your opportunity comes, ride with it. Don't be focused on your outcome. Don't be more worried about, oh, I wonder how this looks, like how I'm playing. Like, they put you in for a reason. You showed that you are capable to be in that position. You may not be successful. Softball, you fail 98% of the time. It's what it is. And I think I just taught them, you just take the opportunities that are given to you. You're going to get them here, on the field, off the field at Ohio State. It's just something that is truly given to you, and it's how you want to take them. And like, one of the things I tell them is like, keep working. A lot of the time you get down on yourself if you're not playing your first year or your second year, but you always have to remember why you're here. And it's not, yeah, you're here, softball got you here. You're here because you want to play softball. You want to play Division I softball at a Power 5 school. But in reality, you came to Ohio State to be a Buckeye for life. Like, take advantage of everything outside of the sport. And if you're taking advantage of everything that is given to you outside of the sport, you're more than likely going to be happier at practice every day with your teammates, making new friends outside of your, like, the sisterhood you get just being a part of a collegiate team. And I think like with them, like this, at least this freshman class and the one last year, I think this past year definitely like came in thinking one thing, and it wasn't like a reality check they had. It was more of like, hey, like, this is what it's like. You can either take it for what it is or do what you want and have a miserable time, which is the reality of if you try to do things how they shouldn't be done. And I think if you talk to any of them, or like even our senior class this year, it's like, we definitely had our experiences with our upperclassmen at the time. And like, we didn't want that to happen to them. So like, we tried to help them as much as we could. And it wasn't like hey, we need to tell you to do this all the time. It was a more of like, hi, like, we'd recommend you do this instead. Like, think about this. And I think they definitely ran with it, and they definitely matured. And then like, as a senior, fifth year, to see a whole entire class of 8 mature in a matter of 6 to 8 months, like, that was definitely really cool to see. And like, I understand some of them aren't happy that they didn't play or whatever it was, but they definitely enjoyed the people. I think that's just like something you have to instill in them early on, so they don't only focus on athletic outcome and just enjoy the experience.
I'll leave you with this now that your time at Ohio State is coming to an end. What's next for you?
Well, I have one more semester of grad school, so I graduate in December with my master's in sport management. I am kind of up in the air what I want to do. I know my coaches want me to go into coaching. It's definitely in the forefront of my mind. I love softball. My softball IQ is fairly high, and Coach Mac jokes that I was just like another coach on the field at shortstop. But I am definitely trying to find an internship right now. Just like I am really interested in like academic advising for athletes, just like the other side of the ball type of thing. I mean, if that doesn't work out, I can always fall back on coaching, but I definitely want to stay in sports. It doesn't really matter what it is. It doesn't have to be softball. If I got to pick, I would 100% pick softball just because it's my nature and I love it so much. But yeah, I'm definitely kind of up in the air. Definitely, I have at least a path that I want to go on. I just gotta wait for everything to fall into place, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many roads you can take from just the simple, I want to stay in sports. There's so many forms that can take. Who knows? Maybe you do go back into coaching. Maybe you're the next one that is friends with the teammates, but they're saying, yeah, she's our friend, but we have to respect the authority to him. Who knows? Maybe it'll come full circle.
Maybe. I mean, that'd be pretty cool. I wouldn't be mad about it.
Thanks so much for coming on and talking with us. It's been an absolute blast, and I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Make sure you continue to tune in to Hang On Supi. The podcast version of the weekly episode releases on Wednesdays on ScarletandGraySportsRadio.com and the SGSR SoundCloud channel. And the video version of the episodes comes out on Fridays that week for those of you who like to watch instead of listen. Also, make sure you're keeping up with the show on Instagram at Hang On Supi. We have started our summer giveaway. Once we get to 800 followers on the Instagram, we will be giving away 3 Amazon $50 gift cards, one for each month of the summer. So make sure we're getting to that number so you can get your hands on some online shopping dough. I'll see you next week. But until then, I'm Caleb Spinner. That's the show. I'm out of here.